on a friendly level, like, is it somebody that you would like to be around? Something you'd like to be friends with if they weren't famous? Like, I can't say that about him. Can't say that about Jay.
Can't hurt me in a vacuum. I mean, you have to, like, if the reason why is because you disagree with him politically, that's different from your charisma.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to, yeah. For sure. Yeah, I disagree with Clinton politically big time, but I mean, what I remember about Bill Clinton, because I think I'm older than you, is he opened up the conversation that allowed teenagers to talk about blowjobs and to ask questions about blowjobs in a way that Americans never had before. So he opened up a sexual dialogue in the country that was kind of the beginning of the, like, losing respect for the role of the president, even though, you know, shit goes on anyway. Like, Kennedy had his shit going on too, but this country respected him in a way that they don't respect presidents anymore. Clinton was the beginning of that. And then from then on, you know, the first time I ever saw, like, blatant disrespect for a president was right after that, like, the president stickers. It was shocking to me to see somebody taking W the president and saying fuck the president. Like, I'd never heard anybody say that about a president before. Like, we take it to common knowledge now that we hate both sides so much, but it was as recent as Bill Clinton that didn't really exist. When the guy that you didn't vote for won, you didn't hate him. You still wanted him to be successful for the benefit of the country. Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky and the way the Republicans attacked him over all that, and the way that he lied under oath and was charged for something that was questionable in nature anyway, but he did lie, so he still broke the law in a way that was prosecutable, even though the questions arise because of something that you could argue whether or not he should have been even asked about. Like, that dilemma is what caused a fractured America, and then the sexualized nature of it. That's when there started being open conversations about what blowjobs were with teenagers. Like, it didn't. We Americans weren't like that before. That's really when it all started. Yeah, and then it got worse. Then Obama came in and he had the black thing too, so he fired up the racists on the other side. Anyway, like, no matter what you did. The first thing he did was the beer thing. There was a black professor that was arrested for trying to break into his own house, and then it was, he accused the police of racism, and so Obama had a beer with him and the cop at the same time to try to, like, mull things over, even though the cop probably wasn't out of line for challenging the guy on his ID when he was breaking into a house. So, you know, that whole thing, I mean, I just see by then we were already too far down the track. We either hated the guy that won because we didn't vote for him, or we hated him because we were already racist in the first place, or I don't know, you had, like, I mean, out of Georgia, you had people hanging their American flags upside down for Obama. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you think it's the end of the country because of Obama? Like, what has he done to represent the fact that he's going to take America down with him? Like, it's not that extreme, you know? Anyway, as fuck, dude. It's creepy as fuck. Like, you tell me that you go, I'm exists, something to be released, and that's something that Elon Musk kind of appointed as the list or whatever. But the Black Book is a list of sorts with actual names and phone numbers. It's completely legitimate. We also have the flight manifests. And those are all real too. So there's all kinds of lists in detail. I mean, God for don't start. I hope Americans are starting to thinking we can't quantify who was part of this in some capacity because this list doesn't exist. The lists that have already been released of sorts, quote unquote lists, are real. We can't forget about those because we have names that are real on those, and so and Trump's on them too. It doesn't mean that they were fucking young girls, but it means they were flying on his airplane to his island where he fucked young girls. So yeah, I'll find the clip for Bill Clinton. You just watch it. You tell me if it's not the creepiest fucking thing you've ever seen. He actually laughs in a way. I mean, they said, but I think you know the answer to that. I mean, bear in mind, this is a guy that was getting head in the Oval Office and sticking cigars up her vagina and then sniffing them and going, tastes good, or whatever the hell he said. Like, dude, he is a fucking creep. Okay, go look at the link that I put in there. That's it's hard to hear what he says, but they have words at the bottom that show you this thing. And look at the look on his face. And look at how he answers it.
Just heard Kevin Love is agreeing to a buyout. Kevin Love? Kevin Love. He just got traded. Really? Yeah, he got bought out.
I think the evidence is clear. That's
Yeah. I'm seeing it. It digs. The Jazz? He got bought out of the Jazz. Yep. Might be a Lakers. That'd be pretty good. Bro, that bitch. You get some shooting off the bench. Not really big on Kevin Love. I'd rather him not be on my team. You said the same thing about DeAndre Ayton. You said the same thing about DeAndre Ayton. I said DeAndre Ayton is the right one for the exact buyout. I said I don't want to trade DeAndre Ayton. Fair enough. Let me twist about words. Just like the Gatorade is fat to get more. 4 teams linked to be Warriors, Lakers, Clippers. As well as the Bucks. smaller digestible bites related to what they already know, and don't complicate it with jargon or things that they might not understand. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just giving you.
yeah, very, very, very helpful. And look, it's a perfect way to kind of round this all out, which is just to say that Lincoln's wife is the grandfather-in-law of none other than James Rowley, the guy who was literally the head of the Secret Service during the years of the Kennedy assassination. So you've got Epstein's fingers tied directly through him, through Maxwell. We can also look at Peter Thiel, who has monetary connections directly to Epstein, going all the way back to his money Carbine 911, which had direct ties to the former Prime Minister of Israel. It's like at every angle of the Epstein-Maxwell story, there is one group of people, there is one nation, and I bring up Lincoln's grandfather.
He's talking about the Israel connection, by the way. I think we can stop dancing around it.
Yeah, no, that is the connection. It's and what I believe is loosely Jewish supremacy. But I just suggested to say, and I brought up Lincoln and JFK because I think that Epstein Island is merely the latest incarnation of blackmail, bribery, and assassination threats, where a singular group's interest has basically at every turn been able to manipulate not only the highest levels of politics, but also of the media, of Fortune 500 companies, and to basically say, hey, whether it is through a bullet in the case of JFK, whether it is through what I believe were tapes used to incriminate Nixon, who was very outspoken against the Israeli lobby and their interests in Washington, D.C., and most recently with Jeffrey Epstein, it is a group of people using any mechanism available to ensure that at the highest levels of all of those silos of power, they get who they want in office, what they want in terms of legislation. And if we then look at the most recent rendition of who it is that's supposed to be investigating these things, we can even look at Kash Patel, his girlfriend of all places, prior to dating this man, and she's a pretty woman, and he is not an attractive man. They're almost double in terms of age, right? It's a far younger woman, and prior to being with Kash Patel, was working for PragerU. And if we look at who literally ran that organization, it was a former Israeli Unit 8200 leader. And so, again, these fingerprints are just all over everything. I thought I would just add that. Again, I don't want to be redundant. I want to be respectful of space and try to be concise. But, Dylan, I just want to throw that out there in case any of those points are kind of left off the table for anybody.
No, and we kind of explored the connections between the intelligence agencies, including Mossad, and Ghislaine Maxwell's father last night. And even, Bin Laden is a Jewish person, and he even conceded that, there was a connection between, Israeli intelligence and Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Like, I feel like I just want to make sure that we're that clear. I am not being confident in that matter. I'm willing to explore avenues in line of thought as long as they're grounded in some type of verifiable facts. And so, but thank you for that, Ian. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get logic and we'll go to MG.
Just to follow up on that, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to explore whether Mossad or Israel agents are involved in Epstein. I question when people say that this is what it was, rather than being that CIA, FBI, MI6, or some consortium of these different intelligence agencies.
More than one thing can be true at the same time.
Right, and when people get fixated that it's about the truths, then I start questioning, okay, are you really looking for truth here, or are you looking to find someone that you can, a popular entity that you can point your finger at, which is great for getting clicks?
True. 100% true. Chad, I want to get your thoughts on all this.
I couldn't get the microphone. Okay.
There you go, brother.
Well, I worked in the Trump campaign and still advocate, but I've always been honest when people asking me questions, and ultimately, this is an abject failure. There's no other way to go about it. There is no other way to look at it sad part about that is they're going to cloud your message, and it's not going to ever get out. This machine is way bigger than something we would ever understand, and there'll be, the new Qs or they'll name themselves something different to put out your truth, but you'll never get the populace to do it until we take control of the machine that dictates to the populace.
Chad, I don't think it's just a failure, right? I think it's an actual slap in the face to its supporters. Like, to be completely honest, like, for how long have we been yelling about this? How long have we been bringing this up? And everybody, even Dan Bongino, said on his show, don't you ever let this go. There is a list out there, and you deserve it. You better stay on this. And then you walk into the FBI and turn around and go, oh, Epstein killed himself in the Manhattan jail, and there's no list, and you think we're just going to sit here and take it? Like, if you love your country right now, like, I understand you might love the president. You love your country, you're going to stand up and say, no, we're not taking this. We know there's a list, and we stay on this until the day, like, we get a list or some answers, because these are not answers. And for them to stand at the podium and say, it's over, case closed, don't ask any more questions, like, I'm sorry, I don't listen to directions real well. So I'm still going to ask questions.
You're right, and the big problem that I have with this too is we've seen this already where social understanding is dictated from an elected position or an appointed position, that being the Supreme Court. We watched them have leaks for the first time in the Supreme Court, like when it came down to Roe v. Wade. They leaked that so that the American people could argue about it before it was ever adjudicated to be real. So when they did actually come out with the notion that Roe v. Wade was in fact unconstitutional, there wasn't riots in the street. The problem is allowing the government to dictate that social norm and then trying to read the tea leaves as in understanding how the American people will react. And that's not something that is for the people, by the people, right? So you're right, Jennifer. It's a slap in the face. It feels like a slap in the face. I actually feel like it's more like a punch in the eye. I am a different animal, though, because I do understand the intelligence world. I've been in your space, his space, and said, you're not going to learn anything. I remember when the binders came out, and I talked to Scott Pressler. He said, I'm not going to speak on it till 11 o'clock. I said, there's nothing in it, and everybody jumped my shit. And there wasn't. So the understanding how this intel machine works, and I suggested, whether you like General Flynn or not, go listen to him because
I just invited him to the space, Chad.
what's that?
Well, Chad, even if we don't get answers,
I just invited him to the space, I said.
Oh, let me
Chad,
text
even
him.
if we don't get answers,
Via DM, though, not a text. What were you saying? All right, cool.
I agree with you, Chad, right? We're not going to get answers because it is an intelligence agency thing, right? But to just bend over and accept these answers and accept this situation we're being presented with is setting a standard that I'm not willing to live with, right? I'm not going to live with everything else that we've been demanding for them just to come out and be like, oh, sorry, case closed. Don't ask any more questions. No, sir. We lived through the last 4 years, the last 8 years, where I slapped myself because I didn't ask questions, where I didn't push hard enough. So you know what? I'm not going to sit up here when we know for sure this is bullshit. We know there is a list. We know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and we're being treated like we're idiots.
Especially. Yeah, and Chad, the binders were a troll on the American people. There was nothing good behind that. That was a satanic troll against we the people.
The satanic stuff, though, bro. I mean, come on. I mean, I get it. I said that myself, but everything. MG, even being really patient. We'll go through the hands. You guys, if you have your hands up, no one's speaking. Chime in. Go ahead, MG.
No, sorry. Yeah, I was driving, so I appreciate you just telling me when it's good to go. No, I largely agree with what Chad said. I'm right now in the mindset that our systems are so broken beyond repair. But as far as accountability goes, and Eric, you guys have all been various people have been talking about the binders and that ridiculous rollout. I mean, ultimately, I think that Pam Bondi is in way over her head. Now, as frustrated as I've been with her, and I think many of you have as well, just keep in mind, I really think that Trump's not going to go if he asks for a resignation or however this pans out. He's not going to go the acting route, like when Sessions stepped down or whatever, and that was that fill-in time before Sessions and Bill, what's his name there. So that's something to consider.
you have to remember too, the AG, of course, as you all know, goes through the Senate. As you saw with the big beautiful bill, the Senate is not really on the same page with a spending bill. Never mind another set of approvals. So I think he's going to wait till after the midterms when maybe we net 55 GOP senators to get an AG that's more suitable for this job. I always had my reservations with her. I kind of don't know what happened with Gates, but I just maybe he didn't think he'd get through the Senate confirmation process. That's a big part of it. Like, you know, I was all thinking in the first administration, yeah, Rudy Giuliani for AG or somebody like that, some hard charger in theory, but it's about getting him approved in the Senate. I mean, there's a reason why Sessions got through. He was not a popular senator. They probably wanted to get rid of him Mitch wanted to get rid of him in the GOP caucus in 2017. There were a lot of reasons behind that. He was ineffective as well, as we all know, sadly. But as far as that, I know you've got a policy diligent, and I do agree with that about not talking about people when they're not here, but it's just something to bring up because she mentioned you specifically, or she said something to you. So I didn't recognize the voice, and I've not been on the speaker box all day since I popped in. But that Caitlin from Texas lady, because I didn't recognize her voice, I clicked on the profile. I'm blocked. Never had any interaction.
Yeah, a lot of people blocked. I'm seeing in the comments.
Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, so because she said she was sending you some thread on a personal testimony of hers. I know you're a discerning guy, but this is the problem. When we're really frustrated,
Lots of people are seeking clout or attention on this. We have to be careful.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, that, you know, you're gonna go.
And I'm not saying she is, but it is something that we need to be aware of.
Right. And I'll just end it with this. You're gonna go into other poorly, spaces that are poorly moderated, unlike this one on this subject at some point. And everybody's got a story to tell, and everybody's got a connection. 6 degrees of separation, so just be mindful of that. As much as we're upset.
How do you feel about this? Give me your general sentiments about the administration, Trump, and the handling of this. And what do you think this is going to do to the base? Because I really usually have a pretty objective opinion.
Well, appreciate it. Yeah. So it's going to be the hardest thing from an optics standpoint. He's going to have to overcome. As much as pandemic was, but in a different sense. Like I said, right now my eyes are on I know why he selected it, because you can get 50 votes at least in the Senate. That's a big part of these things, guys. Like, I know nobody wants to hear it now. Like, it's all, Matt Gates had a lot of enemies on Capitol Hill, which is why he was probably the right guy for the job. But you have to have 50 GOP senators that are willing to pull the trigger and vote yes. So, at least, or 51. So, it's great. It's like fantasy football. We want all these people in, we want Robert Malone as HHS secretary, whatever. But anyway, my overall take is diligent, is that Bondi is not up for this at all. And I really blame her. That binder rollout was ridiculous. I haven't met a single person on here or in real life that follows it that thinks that was a good idea. I don't even know what the purpose of that was, what the objective of it was. So she's not ready to be in this role, and guys, make no mistake, it's the #1 lawmaker in the country. As everybody reports to her, DEA, ATF. The buck stops with her. I'm not ready to throw it at the president's feet because, there's a reason why she's tasked and was given the awesome responsibility of AG, knowing full well that this would be part of the job description, and she wasn't up to it. I mean, she might be doing great with the deportations and fighting the injunctions. That's probably a reason why she's going to kick around longer than we want. Because she's, think about the relationship that Trump had with Rod Rosenstein in the first term and Session being ineffectual. So, as much as this sucks to hear, unless he's really upset about this, which he might be and we don't know, and he asks for her resignation and she tenders it, I don't foresee her going just yet.
It didn't sound like it from his tweet. He put out a tweet and said that, Cash and Dan and the FBI were going to get back to basics and go after criminals, which kind of made it sound like his participation and interest and involving them in the Epstein case is done. You know, it kind of sounded like he was validating the notion. So that means that this goes all the way up to the top and is being signed off by Donald Trump. That's what that means.
Well, Diligent, I don't know how you can it. Honestly, say it doesn't go all the way to the top in some way or another. But I actually read that tweet a little different. I think it leaves open to the concept that because he didn't say anything about Pambani, right? He said, I'm putting cash in Dan Bongino to go after criminals. Now, was that a way for him to say, I disagree with this, and I'm leaving Pam Bondi out of it, and I'm wanting cash in them to bring about indictments? We don't ever know. But I would agree that I can't lay this directly at Pam Bondi's feet, on Bongino's feet, or Cath's feet without the president, because the press secretary walked up there and very flippantly said, that's all, folks, you know, and she speaks for the president. So I have a real problem with where this thing lies. I'm not, again, you know, I'm a Trump guy, and that's where I'm hurt the most here, is that I don't see that fierce machine that has got in front of very small people that were unjustly taken, put in prison, and this seems to be we're done and move on. It doesn't pass the smell test, I guess, is the only way I can really put it.
So I want to jump in with something that is a very unpopular take, and sometimes I don't mind doing that. But this is kind of
being paid so much.
I'm being paid zero by anybody, thank God. So this is the truth, okay? First of all, Epstein was horrible. We all know that. What Pam Bondi did was totally stupid. Chad was right. I remember Chad on those spaces. Chad, you called it. There was nothing. Diligent, you said the same. I thought maybe there was, and I was wrong. So I'm not being paid by anybody. But here's the thing we need to be self-aware about, okay? We need to kind of look inwardly a little bit and ask ourselves this question. Every time there's some big news item, okay, we get kind of torn and we move in this direction, we move in that direction, and it's all this sensational.
My position has been consistent on this issue the entire time.
No. I'm not saying even. I'm not even really talking about our positions. I'm talking about MAGA as a whole, because what's happened to us as a movement, okay, we have a couple of votes in the House margin and a few in the Senate, and we've allowed ourselves as a movement, this entire movement, all the conservatives, everybody supports President Trump, we've allowed ourselves to in some ways be controlled by issues that are important. I mean, Epstein's a very important issue, there's no doubt about it. There's also 50 million people around the world who are in human trafficking, and about 30 to 40% of those are kids, and there's 170,000 in Iraq, there's 140,000 I think in Syria. I mean, there's like all these people around the world, and in the United States, there's 500,000 kids missing, right? So we focus in on the Epstein thing, and notice how the media stokes that fire, like that's what we're supposed to pay attention to. And this has been the case for a long time. Trump is expanding primary 2016. Anyone can press though, when all I was going to report on the Trump, I'm not even calling it conspiracy, but the sensational stuff is ourselves. Meanwhile, we're not getting enough seats in Congress to be able to pass the agenda without major compromises to the lobbyists and to the every single one talking about that. I wonder if people remember that. We're not able to even deal with, all the problems, but also the raising protesters, all the actual other human trafficking issues that are going on, all the other problems are huge problems, but we're not focused consistently on the issues that are big issues. And I think that the challenge I have is we do get distracted very easily. Yes, the Epstein thing's massive, it's a huge disappointment, but I think that in broad aggregate, there's a lot of things you can be distracted to, we've been disappointed, and this movement is really divided. Let's be blunt with you, Elon's taking advantage of the American pressure, whether it's candidates and the candidates against Trump candidate, it's going to hurt the Republican candidates. Obviously, it's not our life.
Here's the thing, is there's some sort of ego that goes into these town chairmen, right? So they love to have parties, Lincoln dinner, and they love to listen to themselves talk. We're saying,
You can see how they spend the money, and they usually spend the money on all this valid. Not even people they spend the money on consulting companies.
they have nothing else in life.
Elon Musk
be this great savior of some kind. And just like when you heard Johnson saying that we're not giving any more money to Ukraine, and he went into a skiff and came out, and they showed him a picture with him and a donkey or something. Just making that up for the lawyers out there. But he came out and all of a sudden gave $50 billion to Ukraine again. This is what happens with the deep state, and it's not surprising to me that she thought she was going to go in there and do something, and then reality kicked her in the teeth. So it's not that weird that she changed her position. And please, Millie, I would love to hear your position.
No, the
because
thing
that's
is,
exactly how
she
it felt.
lied
That's
then
exactly
or
how
lied
it
now?
felt.
You said she lied then, but how did we know? Was she lying then or lying
I
now?
didn't say she lied. I said she wrote checks her ass couldn't cash. She didn't have the information, and that's it.
She came out
She
lying.
said it was on her
didn't
desk,
say that.
man.
Yeah, she
She
said it was on her desk, and then she was told she's not allowed to put
So
that
was
out.
she lying then or lying now? And that's the problem with
Can't
lying.
hear what we're doing because that's what Millie does. She just talks over you. So that you
No, you were actually talking over me.
She wasn't talking over you, Joe.
But she is.
No, I was not.
That's her
You
question.
were talking
I
over me
apologize.
because
You're not
it's
talking over me this time.
Oh my
But
god.
at the end of the day, she wrote out there and got excited about something that she was told she's not allowed to do. She got slapped, and now it's all done and over with. She said it was on her desk. Somebody obviously got to her and said that's where we feel that people are compromised. It happens. It just came Johnson. We all were like, what the hell? You just went into a skiff and came out and gave $50 million to Ukraine again, and then a subsequent another $5 billion. I don't understand how people don't understand that these people get shown something or told something and put their life in a position. That's how intel works. That's how spying rings work. That's how the honeypot works. Everybody has their reason. So I think she just went stupid, and now she's got to pay for it. And I'm more than likely she'll be the fall guy once this gets heated up enough.
And Cat Patel
I agree
was
with everything. I agree with everything. I agree with everything you just said, Ken. But here's the thing, Ken. We all spent weeks talking about Epstein when there were other issues that were equally and actually way more important, truthfully, for the immediate security of
That's
the city.
in your mind. Yeah, man.
No, that's not in my mind. That's actually what happened.
There's no more important issue than me than the ending of child sexual assault in this country and the
I am
cover
not
up
saying that's
within
not
our government. That is the top
I'm not
priority.
saying, I'm talking about the dog and pony show. I'm talking about the binders. I'm talking about the dog and pony show they put on. That controlled the media cycle for conservatives. And we weren't talking about the border. We weren't talking about all the waste. We weren't talking about all the foreign issues. We weren't talking about any of that stuff.
We definitely
just
were. Like, I don't understand where you have this dichotomy in your head that doesn't exist, bro.
No, I'm not talking about diligent, and I'm not talking about really anybody here, but there are plenty of people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Chad knows what I'm talking about. Y'all know, Jennifer, you know these people.
Yeah, but why are you
All
giving those
focus
people
on-
power by even acknowledging them?
Because they've taken a huge portion of the MAGA movement and split it away from focusing on the ball,
If we go
focusing on policy.
somewhere else, I'm pretty sure everybody's still on this platform unless they're a small little dick motherfucker who left yesterday.
I mean, I'm looking at a lot of people right now who are claiming they're going to go leave the Republican Party for the American
Good.
Party.
Goodbye.
Who on this day said they were leaving the Republican Party? I never made that comment.
Not on this stage, but there have been plenty of people on exit that
They only
claim
made a
they
generalized
were
statement. It doesn't apply to the group of people you speak to.
Okay, and
No, not here, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Come on.
Whose fault is that? It's not the Republican Party's fault for not delivering on what they promised, is it? Is it all on the people that are pissed off that left because they feel like they've been lied to? Or is it the Republican Party needing to take accountability for, screwing up essentially, promising things that they didn't deliver on, saying they're going to vote a certain way and then they get elected in office and they completely freaking 180 on things? That's the reason people are upset here. And you can complain and you can, moan all you want, but the reality is if everything was going the way it should be going and promises were being kept and people were doing what they're supposed to do, you have a thriving base right now. The reason things are going
That's my point.
sour
I agree with
is
you.
because bad things are happening. And you're
Really, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Trump's response to all of this is not, you know what, I'm going to get to the bottom of this because we need answers regarding Epstein. I didn't see that response today. I saw, well, back to basics. Moving on, and I saw Caroline Levitt.
No more questions.
Yeah, and I saw Caroline Levitt pretty much, kind of doing damage control
high list. We're gonna get more Epstein drops, and then it seems like the whole thing has just went into a vacuum.
And Billy, can I point out one thing? Can I point out one thing? Do you guys realize how many people, like associated with Epstein, have either died or committed suicide? It's not just Virginia Giuffre. It's not just Jeffrey Epstein, right? You have John Claude, whatever the hell his name is, over in France, right? There is a whole list of people that have died under mysterious circumstances, whether that be suicide or getting hit by a car or something like that. Why are all these people dying if there's nothing there?
I'm not saying there's nothing there. I'm saying that we're not holding people accountable. Millie made my point. Why are we holding anyone accountable for anything? You know what? It's like they disappoint us and then we just move on to the next thing. They disappoint us and we move on to the next
The
thing.
day
They
you
disappoint us and we
accept
move on to the
these
next thing.
results right now is the day that you are saying, I'm done, Jeffrey Epstein doesn't exist. You know damn well that this is not,
We're not
it's not
accepting
you.
this. We're asking.
Not everything is about you, bro.
All right. Okay, bro. Well, listen, I like that indulgent space so we can say bro. It's a multi-gender term. But like, let's be honest, there are plenty of people who just move from thing to thing, and we do have to stay focused. We have to hold them accountable. And yeah, Jennifer, you've been doing that. Bill's just been doing that. A lot of folks doing that. But you know, that's why we're having trouble, because when things go wrong, no one seems to hold anybody accountable in general, not people in the space, okay? And then we just move from thing to thing to thing, and we get more and more divided.
Which
and that's
is
why
why I'm
26 is
saying
going to
we
be
should,
tough.
even though Caroline Levitt came out, even though the FBI came out, don't accept it. Start yelling, use your voice, use your platform, force them into a position where we don't
They're
just
asking,
accept this.
they're actually asking me to ask you to stop yelling, Jen.
Sorry.
And can I just add to that, because we keep forgetting, let's move our goalposts to the idea of you know, let's start a new screw you party and hold them accountable. You're not holding anybody accountable. What you're going to end up is giving it to the Democrats. We're going to end up with pissed off issue. We're going to call out the America Party like the shills they are. And when in the end of the day, the American society and what we are and our greatness is that we fight for what we believe in. It's a two-party system. Go fight for your Republican Party. If everybody in this room was a part of it, more than likely we wouldn't have the issues we have, because it starts locally. It starts your local GOP. It starts in South Carolina. We took over 14 GOPs in one cycle. We have a couple more GOPs to take over when all we need is 27, and we take over the state. Not a problem. It's not that hard. And if people would learn that and understand that as part of their politics, just not what, you know, whether or not Nancy Pelosi's husband's getting beat with a hammer with some gay guy. You know, we're into that shit instead of the boring, mundane shit where we got to do it on the local level and take over these GOPs. Starting in
And
your
these
party
city
is just a
councils-
big fart in the wind. That's all it is.
And Chad, the city councils in most everybody's city, even in red states, have the farthest left socialist people you could possibly imagine on these school boards. And we've gotten some of those school board people off around the country. But look at these cities, look at these counties,
getting
these
off into the
local
weeds, you guys.
districts.
Yeah, but guys,
But
why
dude,
does
that's
it matter?
where you build the party.
If we
That's
have
what it
people-
matters, because you have to hold them accountable.
If
Everybody has to be held
Well, let me
accountable.
just make this clear right now, okay? This is not on the Republican Party. This is not on anybody else but Pam Bondi and the Trump administration. They hold the responsibility of the Epstein debacle in its entirety right now, right? Period. That's a fact. Okay, that's why I'm saying I feel like we're getting off into the weeds talking about replacing Republicans. You know, we've replaced lots of people in Congress over the last 10 years, and the situation over Epstein hasn't changed. And if you don't believe me, there is an Epstein House committee right now. Okay, a friend of mine sits on that committee, and Luna chairs it. Have we seen any new revelations regarding the Epstein files? Okay, that does not make a difference. The administration is responsible for the release of these files, the release of the information, the optics, all of it. Okay, and they're accountable. And I'm not like trying to like listen. I would just love. I think the administration, what needs to happen right now is they need to come out and do a press conference specifically on Epstein. Don't give us any runaround. Don't do what Carolyn Abbott did this morning. That was horrible what she did. The spin, she sounded like Karine Jean-Pierre up there. I'm sorry, but that's a fact. And the American people did not vote for that When we all campaigned for Donald Trump last year, we did not vote for that. So, I'm going to hold accountability where it's due. The administration needs to come out and talk to the American people about this in a very candid way right now, because they're in danger of really having a rug pull situation with their agenda over the next few years if they don't, I'm afraid. And I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm just reading the room. MG's got his hand up for a while, you guys. Go ahead, MG.
Yeah, thanks, man. I just wanted to put the pin in my take on the Bondi thing. So ultimately, yeah, she's going to be responsible, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But this isn't something that, does Trump need to be accountable for this? Absolutely. But I don't think anybody's suggesting this, but he's not going to resign over this. So if people are looking for his scalp,
I'm not looking for him to resign.
Here's the reality. Here's the reality. Trump could actually be taking a position right now where he's like screaming and yelling and saying, we need justice over the Epstein files. And it still wouldn't do very much, because at the end of the day, Pam Bondi and the prosecutor's office, they're the ones who have the ability to prosecute. It is them alone. Prosecutors can decide they don't want to prosecute, even if there's mountains of evidence, based on prosecutorial discretion alone. Right? So they can pick and choose the powers in their court. This is on Pam Bondi. And I would say that a lot of the corruption problems in covering for the criminal syndicates and sex trafficking and these blackmail pimps is happening at the prosecutor, district attorney level. Okay, so it's going on in these DA offices. These are the people we need to be investigating and digging into and analyzing them and their lifestyles and their connections, because these are the ones who are covering for these powerful people at the end of the day. These are the ones.
And where are they elected, Billy? Where are they elected, the DAs? Where do they come from? Are they federally appointed?
They're paid by
local
George
officials.
Soros.
No, but they're local officials, and nobody's
Who
paying
are
attention
paid by
to
George
because they're too busy
Soros.
watching. Right, and they're watching
Pam
Fox
Bondi
News
was
or America.
appointed,
They're not paying
though.
attention to local
Yeah,
DAs.
two more seconds, guys, and I'm done. I promise. So yeah, so she's going to ultimately fit. It's exactly what Millie was saying. Trump is not. He's the chief executive, but he's not the chief prosecutor. Okay, her job is investigations and prosecution. So again, he could be secretly very upset with how this was mishandled, and you have to go back to when he was appointing his AG and his cabinet back in the fall after the election. Is that, again, what he learned from some of the failures of Trump 1.0 was that you need to get people that can pass the Senate. Okay, again, I have to read it. It is relevant, guys, because we all want this person, that person, and create. Everybody wants Jamar Chase at wide receiver. Doesn't mean it's going to happen in your fantasy football draft. He had to get somebody who was going to go in there and not piss off the rhinos on the Senate Judiciary Committee, get out of committee, get to the floor, and get at least 51 votes. That's it. End of story. Period. That's and the AG is this is not the ambassador to Hungary. It is the most important position, obviously, in the DOJ. It's the head law enforcement person of this country. I saw from day one. I'm not a Florida resident, but obviously Florida being a popular state, we all knew her history there. I didn't really see her as doing anything outstanding. It wasn't like she had a reputation like Ken Paxton has in Texas or Eric Schmidt when he was AG of Missouri. She's been around a long time. She looks good on TV, but I don't know if she had the bona fides that some of these other people have had. So something to consider. I don't predict she's going to last the entirety of this term, but again, she's not pushing back on Trump with what his main goal is: the mass deportations, fighting the injunctions when they were in effect. That is why he's going to keep her around. That's my prediction, because
He's going to do that at his own risk then, because this is bad.
Yeah, he is. He is, and he'll take the political damage like he did in 2018 in the midterms with Jeff Sessions recusing himself, etc. Exactly. I mean, He's absolutely a root cause guy, and for now she's going to stick around again, unless.
But she should have never gone on Fox News and made those statements and tried to throw this bone to MAGA that she didn't even have. It doesn't matter if it was her fault or some underling that gave her that statement. The fact is she was the one that made the statement. The buck stops there. And yes, unfortunately, you're right. That's kind of my point too. Like deportation. Big issue. $175 billion in the omnibus bill has to be done now. Start doing it now. Close down the borders, close down immigration, get the freaking job done. That's what everybody voted for Trump for, 70% issue. And yet, we're all talking about this, which is very important, but Pam made it a bigger issue than it should have been because she went sensationalized it so bad, you're not going to believe how bad it is.
I'm not going to stop talking
I'm
about
not saying it's
I might host a space about this big every day this week. Okay?
Here's the
Remember when
reality,
they
though.
said the reason
The
was because
underlying
they
premise of what you keep arguing is that when she made those original statements, that was the time she was lying, right? Not this time around when they all did the 180 and are like, oh yeah, no, there's no Epstein list. Yeah, Epstein killed himself. But the problem with that is, how do we know if the first time was the lie or the second time was the lie? How do we know?
Well, what happened in between, Millie, then that means that Cash and Bongino and a whole lot of other people we assume to be loyal to President Trump are all lying because if it happened at that time, only Pam was lying.
Yeah, that's I think what people are concerned about.
Watch the swearing, please.
How is it that we are trying to compartmentalize this down? Like, this is the right, like, let's just be clear. This isn't the levels that this had to fail at for us to get to this point without any of the transparency, without any of the accountability, before any of these rich people who did all kinds. The number of failures is so complete. It covers the local level, it covers the federal level, it covers multiple administrations. How are these elite pedophiles so powerful that here we are when everybody knows what was going down on the island? That yet they've been able to protect. This is only the final straw in that. And are we supposed to, like, if it's not Donald Trump picking who are we supposed to elect to actually get justice and accountability for this level of elite sickos? So, like, where do we go from here in order to solve this problem and actually get some accountability? Who else is there?
Will they be allowed to do something even if they get into office?
How can they not be allowed to?
Well,
I'm watching it right now.
There's two ways to do it. You take over the system or you lock and load.
For me, I think we need to seriously look at, like, the K-Lab model and some other models. I hear you guys talking, oh, well, we have to have Senate confirmation. We can't. There's almost no one that's been, like, in the bureaucratic midst of stuff who isn't culpable and guilty. Like, we need to arrest everybody until we can sort out who's actually responsible. Like, this is systemic left. In order for it to get here, it isn't just, again, like I said, it's not one administration. Right? We're talking about decades of people covering up. We're talking about local offices. We're talking. I mean, this touches almost every. In order for us to continue at this level and get to this point where we're just being told, nothing to see here, folks. Just move along. It's so systemic that we have to seriously start thinking about like how we go from here in such a way that people have to be held. It's systemic. It's like core root level systemic where they never have gotten this far. And I just, so for me trying to narrow it down, defeats the purpose. This is our government and governments as a whole failure over the course of decades. And this is the shit we know about. I can't even imagine what's happening. It's terrifying to me. But we have to ask ourselves. I put the name of our people baddies the other day. Our system absolutely disallowed kind of systemic abuse of children in order to leverage and blackmail people.
Remember, like Jimmy Edward. Hey,
I'm
gonna piggyback on one of the required to actually administrate a private outlet. You've got cooks, you've got waiters, you've got hostesses, you've got doormen. I mean, like, if you show up at Epstein's Island, like, it's not a cabin in the woods. Okay, let's be real. I have seen in Branson's Island the BBIs. Like, it's got multiple windmills on it. It's
power is no longer in our hands to be able to vote our way into changing it. And we have to really take a serious look at how we go forward from here, because there is no universe where we can vote enough people in order to get this. There is something that is held over the hands of the people who get there. They are not the ones with the power.
But is that the case, Dustin, or were they wolves in sheep's clothing that were mimicking and mirroring the MAGA base and the MAGA people to get the support so that they could leverage themselves into the position to get the jobs?
I don't believe for a second that Trump, right? In order for that to be true, it had to be Trump, Bongino, and Cash for the better part of a decade, consistently and knowingly lying in order to deceive the voter base. It's much more.
That's not what Billy said. That's not what Billy said. She's saying that the members of Congress. See, this is why it's not so clear cut, Dale. All these people are mimicking the issues they think we want to hear. They've been doing it for a long time. Most of these people in Congress precede
that is closer to what I said. They're mimicking and mirroring the base.
So I have a perspective from General Mike Flynn. He posted this about 26 minutes ago. I want to read it off. Attention, Epstein files sit rep. What everyone is missing are the children who were abused by Epstein's and others. I don't care whether he killed himself or not. For me, I want to believe FBI Director Cash and Dan Bongino, but with the FBI's track record with laptops, Hunter Biden, Anthony Weiner, Seth Rich, now Epstein, never mind the FBI's previous track record for telling the truth, it is really hard to fathom that something else isn't going on here. I think there needs to be an incredible transparent briefing to the American people immediately by the DOJ. The lack of trust in the FBI and DOJ is so thick you can cut it with a knife. Come on, guys, the American people are not stupid or afraid to know the truth. I couldn't agree more. Well articulated. Let's go to Philip. He was waiting patiently with his hand up. He doesn't always do that.
The general texted me back, by the way. He said he's about doing media.
Excuse me, it's fine.
Answering me a question. Yeah. Go ahead, Chad. What were you saying?
Chill, Philip. You can bitch all you want.
What were you saying, though, Chad? The general texted you back what?
Glitch. He texted me back, said he's doing media. He'll try to get in here.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Can
That's great. Go ahead. No, Philip's turn. I call it Philip.
Earlier were.
I call it Philip. I don't know if you can't hear me, Millie. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, well, sorry about that, Chad. All you ever do is scold me. I mean, you got on my page.
Let's not make this a personal beef between two people. That's nothing to do with the topic.
But yeah, okay, yeah, I'll move on.
That sounds hard.
So, yeah. So the issue I have with all of this is people are still going to be telling us how we have to feel about this. They're going to be telling us how we have to react to this. No, we're done with that. If you're one of the people who said, oh, it's only been 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, shut the fuck up. You're one of the people who said, trust Dan Bongino.
Stop swearing, bro. I'm not going to tell you again.
You're wrong the entire time. Okay, I'm sorry. Why is there a rule against
Because there's people complaining. My listeners are
Daytime
complaining.
TV, it's
My listeners are complaining about the swear words. They're around their kids. They're with their families. Okay, and they get precedence over the speakers. That's why. Okay, so please just adhere to what I'm asking here.
It's summer break for the kids. They're home.
Alright. Okay, I got it. And, they're going to be telling us how we have to react, how we have to feel about it. And honestly, I'm tired about that. I'm tired of being told how I have to feel. I know what's right and what's wrong. I feel really bad about this. I know it's terrible. And people are saying, oh, no, good things are done. No, it does not matter, guys. We were promised that there was going to be transparency. There was going to be arrest. All these files would be released in length, in detail. And what they do, they say, oh, it no longer exists. There's no way around this. They screwed us over. This is something that I cannot overlook. And if you're telling people, oh, well, you shouldn't feel this way, you're insane. I'm sorry, you are just insane. You're the same people who are telling us to trust the plan the entire time. The same people who are calling us fake MAGA and traitors. We're putting pressure on them and saying, no, you need to get on this. You need to arrest the deep state criminals. You need to release the files. No more excuses. No more moving the deadlines. I mean, I've seen others and also myself get attacked over and over for this. And that's what happens. You're part of the trust the plan cult. This is what you get: astronomical magnitude of humiliation and betrayal. So congratulations. This is what we got for that. I'm hoping everyone learns a valuable lesson from this, realizes you cannot trust the government. It's not just some little fun thing we say. No, you literally can never trust the government, and you have to put pressure on them to do the right thing and to get back on the right track. So, you know, as it goes with MAGA, I was hoping this would be like an America First movement, not just, you know, follow one man to hell or follow one man into this shit show. I'm hoping that, you know, now we can actually fight for things we believe in and not just say, okay, we're just going to trust whatever direction they go in, because Donald Trump, you know, this made it clear that he supports what the FBI and the DOJ did, that he supports them not releasing the files, not arresting anyone, not giving a jack, you know what. You know, so I have a problem with that. I'm not willing to follow a man who does that stuff. I'm going to cheer for him when he does the right thing, but right now I'm no longer a supporter. I mean, I was already on the fence, but now I'm done. Unless he gives us real mass deportations, this administration is a joke. It's full on a joke. I don't trust him at all.
You're allowed to feel that way. Thank you, Philip. Go ahead, Michelle. You've been waiting patiently. Sorry about that.
Hey, that's no problem. Thanks, Diligent. It's been a while since I've been in a space, but this has been great. I've really enjoyed listening, and I love your passion for this issue. I was sitting here thinking as I was listening the last hour or so about what a convergence we live in this time right now, where there are people, and I so appreciate you for this, who will just stand for truth alone, let it stand alone, not get into parties. And this is what I think. I believe in America. I believe in the experiment. I believe in the Constitution. I don't think in terms of having to burn it all down, but I do wholeheartedly agree with Dustin that this has to come outside. It has to be pressure put on outside of either party or voting our way into or out of this. I'm from Omaha. I live in Kansas City now. So I did a deep dive about 15 years ago on the Franklin cover-up. And I often think of what it would have been like had we had the access to social media and getting the word out and doing research had it been at that time. Did you know that King, the guy, the kingpin of that, he never served more than 10 years. They only got him on financial charges, never anything sex or sex trafficking. And he probably ended up in DC. Nobody even knew where he went. So this is decades of getting away with these degenerate, reprobate sexual deviancy that has harmed children and has, led to, many deaths and sexual exploitation and devastation in our society and around the world. And I think that this is exactly what we need. I don't know where things are going to go from here, but I do think that this is the way to do it, is to keep the pressure on. And somehow, even though we don't see what's going to be the way that this is going to, how is this going to remedy? It doesn't even matter if we know the way or not right now. We have to keep putting on the pressure. And hey, I'm an Andrew Bailey guy. I think really he should have been the one instead of Bondi. He's a military he's an operational guy, and I really hope we can get somebody in there for AG like that. I think that these AGs, these prosecutors, should get full protection. I think their families should be protected. I think it should be just like security detail. I think that they definitely need to be brought to justice within the justice system, but it has to be so these people who are prosecuting, I know their life, I'm sure their lives are getting threatened, I'm sure their families are, but this is, I never got into the cube with them, but thank goodness for the whole cabal thing and all the videos, and we know this cabal of sexual deviants that have preyed upon, it's fueled the abortion industry, it's fueled the, it's just awful. And I'm really thankful, Diligent, that you're here. I've enjoyed listening to everybody. Billy, Chad, all of you guys, Dustin. Thanks, guys.
Attorney General does have a security detail.
Yeah, we know that. They all do. All the cabinet members do. Go ahead, Emergent.
Hey, appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of riff a little bit on what some others saying, Dustin in particular. And I think that there's kind of if you just kind of take a step back here and just look at reality and politics such as it is, and most of us have been in this sphere and commenting on this for the last few years. And I think there is an underlying, I always listen to, there's the people that are, delusionally optimistic. Oh yeah, Trump's going to give us everything. He's going to lead us into battle like Genghis Khan, and we're going to take everything back. And then there's the doomers that are like, oh, Trump is just a psyop to make us think that he's, he's just a psyop for the deep state, so that we think we're going to get stuff and we're not going to get anything. And I think the answer inevitably is somewhere in the middle, because politics is inevitably the art of you're trying to negotiate between the base and the supporters who elected you, and the voting blocks that put you in office, and the entrenched interests that, to one degree or another, are also their key supporters, right? And I think that what this reveals is, I don't think it means Trump is in on it. I think what it reveals is that the blackmail ring, the Epstein client list, what it reveals is that they are, at least for now, an entrenched enough interest that Trump either is not prepared to deal with that, or he does not believe he can at this time. And, it might be something that I think that's a very difficult pill to swallow, but I think at a bare minimum, that's what everybody should be. It's a bitter pill, but that's what everybody should be swallowing at this point. I don't think that means that we're not going to get anything we want, and I do think Trump is still going to make progress on some of the issues that he has been working on, but I think that's the reality.
Also, how humiliating this is. Everyone who voted for Donald Trump and this happens, it's humiliating. And it's just not right to do this to his own voter.
Yeah,
How do you think the Democrat fundraising efforts are going right now? I bet you they're going pretty well.
I'm not denying that this is black stain. I don't think it means women for Trump over Kamala Harris is humiliating, frankly.
I don't regret my vote.
I think that's ridiculous.
I also.
And to be clear, the Democrats are not any better. Just to be clear on that, the Democrats they could have released it for 4 years.
Yeah, they're also in on it.
They've been trying and they even called for it. But
There's more to talk about.
Yeah, the fact that our side went out of the way and said, hey, we got truckloads, hey, it's on the desk, hey, we're going to release the files, hey, these influencers stand in front of the White House and hold these binders to the entire world. I mean, why in the world would you do that if you're not going to release it? Like, God, that was just not very
What
smart.
happened to the 200 files at the SBNY that they wouldn't turn over?
Oh yeah, I remember at one point they said that was the reason. Oh, the real files are up there in New York, and then they had them all shipped down. Then we never heard another word about it.
See, this is what's so confusing, and I just want to clarify what you guys are really touching on. Because we have this synopsis that there's no client first. There's a synopsis that he wants blackmailing people and being corrupt. So that's the synopsis. That's the truth that the government wants us to accept. Even according to their own claims. I mean, that doesn't mean that there wasn't some trafficking of thousands of children. And so, we have some of the same thing that they have to do to try and carve out the parts that are protected and things of that nature. So, why would you drop this while also indicting hundreds of
about the local prosecutors through the entire process. Local prosecutors and their staff, state prosecutors and their staff, different administrations, different FBI and their staff. I mean, you're talking about, in order to just keep the lid on this thing to this degree, an almost insane level. And if you have if they have the power to prevent this information from coming out, then what else are our elected, like the people that are supposed to be in control, what else do they not have control of? What else can they be leveraged to go against? It obviously, the announcement's so ridiculous. We have planned this, right? Like, we know Prince Andrew is implicated in this. We know a lot of people who regularly attend die. Like, the idea that there was no client list and no one was writing down is so silly that who has the power to make somebody say something so ridiculous and obvious at the highest level? And how are we supposed to do anything if Trump and that team in particular is forced to toe that line? I think it's something to really have on consider.
Well, and I'm not worth anywhere near what Epstein was worth. Okay, but if you come to my house, you're going to pop up on my ring doorbell. If you walk out back, you're going to be on camera when I let my dog Margaret out, under the nightlights to go take a pee. Like, there's cameras everywhere in my house. Like, if you're under the impression, again, to own a private island, to be hanging out with the most influential people on the planet, then there are cameras everywhere. Like, the list written down by Epstein in a little black book is totally effing irrelevant, okay? We know exactly who these people are. Just show us the ring doorbell footage. I mean, at a minimum, like, you don't have to release the actual sex acts with children, blah, 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 the way Caroline said it today, which was just so...
Or just tell us the name.
Don't even come at me. Don't even come at me with that. Don't even come at me with that. Oh, you can't really... Like, I'm not asking for actual footage of Andrew, behind someone in a, villa somewhere. I'm just asking for the evidence that that person was in there and you got Andrew walking through the front door. And to say that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
or that I am...
There were cameras over the main doorway and the signage.
I mean, damn. There be cameras everywhere, Diligent. Like, come on now. Like,
The cameras on the corner from the city of New York.
I have a couple of big guests coming in shortly, so do me a favor, you guys. Bottom right corner, repost the space. I want to go to some of these people with their hands up, and then we'll open it back up. Jennifer, right? Did you? There's some hands up. I don't know. Is it not up?
Hey, drop me for space if you want to, Jill. Whenever you need to. Just
whenever you're done talking, you can drop yourself. You're doing all right.
I'm just wondering why Prince Andrew would settle with Virginia Giuffre for what, $5 million? Or was it more? It's like, there was no, fire where there was smoke. It just seems weird that she would settle with someone. Yeah, and she's dead. But look at how many
she got hit by a bus, and that didn't work.
Yeah, but listen, the point is that all of the people who have been associated with Jeffrey Epstein, including Epstein, are now mysteriously dead. Right? John, Luke, whatever the hell his name is, Virginia, Jeffrey, there's a whole list of them. There was a New York Post article that they did. So why are all these people dying, and why are they settling out of court if there's nothing that the American people need to know?
And
I certainly appreciate you guys letting me come up and just share some thoughts. Again, I really felt the need to vent, but when I jumped in line here. But, this isn't a red or blue issue. This isn't a Democrat Republican issue. This is a basic human goodness versus evil issue. These thousands of children that were trafficked, what's sad is there's no justice for them on this side of the grave. It looks like this has all been swept under the rug. It does make you feel like you feel powerless. And you do wonder what can be done, right? I mean, we thought that having our voices heard at the ballot box would make a difference. But when there's evidently this kind of power that's not elected by the people and for the people, it really does push you towards either resigning to the fact that this constitutional republic is done, or it pushes you to the other extreme, which I won't mention, out of fear that someone might come visit me. But that's the sadness of it. Your heart just breaks for the thousands of victims and the witnesses that have been silenced by their own death. I think it's very frustrating when we see that really they're all a part of one big club and we're not a part of that. So then the question is a third party approach the right approach? Well, I'm 45 and I've seen some of those third party approaches over the years. I would say that with the tools that we have today, there might be that opportunity to really organize. I don't know, but I'm just very heartbroken today.
Well, quick question, Sugar.
Yeah.
Instead of having the third party run the general election,
Right.
a way to have our third party run in the primary, the Republican primary. That way we can actually get our own handpicked people to run the primary. Is that possible?
No.
You can't run in a primary for a party that you're not a part of.
What we have to do is we have to limit the terms on some level. We have to call a constitutional convention of the states, if that's even possible.
Oh my God, hell no. You are not opening up the Constitution with the very idiots that are fucking us. Discuss our
No, we're not gonna turn this. We're not gonna turn this into an America party shilling faction. We're also not gonna turn this into a convention of the states. It's already been declared, even by you, Justin, that there's no way to vote your way out of this. Let's operate under that premise.
I would like to propose some real things that I think need to be done.
Okay, what's the solution?
It's not a big.
It's not a party to make
You might sugar.
There is no magic silver bullet, don't get me wrong. However, we need to push the Overton's window. You need to demand that there are candidates that call for wholesale Bukele-style jailing of government officials at every level. We have to push what is mainstream and acceptable by moving the Overton's window and demanding extreme judicial and legal and criminal action against all kinds of people. And I think we started that a little bit, which is why we're so upset that we sent people in that we thought were going to do it. Our job is now to quadruple down on our demands of what any candidate says as far as how far they're willing to go and how many people they're willing to arrest in order to clean the system out. Like, we have to push the Overton's window.
If not a party, then maybe, Justin, like we discussed earlier, maybe we could start like some type of group that, like an unofficial party, but like within the Republican Party that we can have run against.
Oh, like MAGA?
You mean like MAGA?
Guys, Donald Trump has endorsed a bunch of people that were bad. All right, so I wouldn't say quite like that. Different. Like we ourselves, we would choose them. We would actually have control over it. Something different. Why not try it? What do we have to lose?
How are you going to have control if you're not in an organized party?
Okay, I have a solution to present. So a lot of times, if you want to hurt the politicians the most because you're pissed off at them, you got to do it with your wallet. Okay, these guys are always calling up asking for money. All these candidates are asking for money. The Republican Party asks for money, and then they sprinkle it around to the candidates that they choose. That system screws candidates that we know aren't freaking bought off, and then they could endorse them and they could fundraise to that PAC or something, and then get behind those candidates individually. Or if you don't want to do it that way, you could just find the candidates individually and donate directly to them. But if you cut off the money supply to some of these other politicians and parties, that's going to hurt them the most. That's why I always say vote with your wallet.
Yeah, I gotta go. Diligent, thanks again for having me. And I really do think we should be willing to think outside the box on this, guys. I mean, seriously, isn't that how a lot of changes are made? Thinking outside the box, trying something a little bit different. I mean, we fail. If we keep doing the same thing we do again and again, then we're definitely gonna fail, right? So why not try something a little bit new? Because I really don't want anything like this to happen again, guys.
I think outside the box is the only way that we're going to be able to fix it, to be honest with you. Obviously, the levers and mechanisms within the system that we have available do not work. I think we can kind of...
Yeah, when people don't do anything.
Yeah, I think we
Come on,
can...
Elgin, we're talking about an apathetic electorate that doesn't go out there and do the job. It's what it is. I mean, it's just what it is. You can laugh all you want, Dustin. You know it better than anybody.
I do.
We're going to move the football, but at the end of the day, if people aren't willing to get out there and do it, it's not going to happen.
The issue is partially the process, right? The fact that you can't get people to go do it means that there's an issue systemic. Again, this gets down to the systemic level, which is we have a massive issue. I don't believe that there's anyone we can vote. Like Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. I mean, who are we supposed to go vote for that's going to go in and spend the kind of time reassuring us that they are focused on these issues, they believe in them, in long-form content, in short-form content, in their own content. I just, for me, I don't know that there's any, like, I don't know how we vote this out. We have to make people more afraid of the people than they're afraid of whatever is pushing them to make these kinds of decisions. And that's a really challenging situation, especially because we're so cucked. I mean, no one here will even discuss the idea that maybe right? Our Declaration of Independence says that, like, when your government stops working for you, right, the only solution that is given to us is to remove them and either start over or completely replace it. And yet we're so afraid of even talking or bringing that and mentioning it, mostly because of, like, the PSYOPs, J6, and all the bullshit that we've been put through, that we're even afraid to talk about it amongst ourselves. And I think part of us, like, we need to come to the internal courage to say the words out loud. The First Amendment was written specifically for us to talk about these specific issues. And there is no path forward that does not involve pain and sacrifice. At the end of the day, we either, like, there will be people who suffer and there will be pain, and, right, you will come under attack again and again, like many of us have for a long time, in order to, like, advance it. But it starts with us having the courage to say the words out loud. And I can't tell you how many times in this space alone I've heard people self-censor having a discussion about maybe it really is time for us to take them all out simultaneously, not violently, but also not.
I mean, I've heard numerous people on the stage say that if it needs to all burn down in order to fix this, then it needs to all burn down, including Chad and myself.
What does that mean? I mean, let's talk pragmatically, okay? Dustin, Dustin, I want you to speak plainly. You say that we shouldn't self-censor. I want you to speak plainly. Are you suggesting violent overthrow of the government? And I'm not asking this. If you tell me you don't want to say that out loud because you're afraid that the FBI is listening to you, I understand that. But I'm just asking you, like, what is it exactly that you're saying?
I'm saying that maybe we need to continue to show up until we shut it down, right? Like, at some point, we have to take to the streets and demand wholesale change. Again, what I'm proposing here is that this is a system.
Isn't that what J6 did though?
It's exactly what happened with J6, and we paid a terrible, terrible price for that. A lot of people paid a horrific, life-altering price and sacrifice for it. But if there's ever been an issue that, like, we need to show up and we need to continue to make noise and make things not work until, like, it comes to a head and some things change. What more usurpations do we have to suffer before we say, you know what, like, I would rather go in and the risk of the psyops and the infiltrators and the agent provocateurs and everything else in order to start showing up and just continue to push and push and push. Because honestly, all of this talk like, oh, well, we're going to organize and we're going to, like, get a bunch of people to go vote. Until we start, it starts with talking, and then it starts with protesting in person, and then it starts with not accepting the abuses that come with those things. And no one's got a crystal ball, so I'm not saying that it definitely leads to violent revolution or whatever, but is anyone going to DC? Is anyone going to go protest outside of somebody's office? Or are we going to protest outside FBI offices? Or
Elon Musk, if you're listening and you want to help us fund an operation where people can afford to do that, I will gladly go protest against the Epstein files not being released, and I'm sure a lot of other Americans will.
And I would help organize it, right? And I would set all other political differences aside with anybody who wanted to fucking stand. I'm sorry for swearing. Anybody who wanted and had the courage to come stand with us, I would 100% come back and do it again, and make the call and do all of the things that we do to have the best, right? Like all of the peaceful protests that we've done for, you know, January 6th was the third of 3 DC rallies that were massive. I think we need to call people back out. I think this is a big enough deal, and I think that the message that would be sent to see a bunch of us, Trump supporters and MAGA people, showing up while Trump was president because we were so outraged, I think that would cause a stir and make noise that would be impactful in a way that just staying safe and talking about it in the comfort of our little bubbles online, it's not enough. It's just not enough.
And if anything, hopefully you extend the chill down the spine of some of these pedophiles on the client list, that the people are freaking coming for you.
Let me go to Michael Tracy real quick. I would really like your opinion on this, Michael. Go ahead.
Hey, somebody just sent me the link and suggested that I speak.
Yeah, I sent out an invitation to Ben. He might be busy though, so.
Okay. So I would assume that this quote-unquote take I'm about to give is going to be very different from what has mostly said on this space. And just give me like a minute or two to expound.
Go ahead.
So there became a point at which, from my perspective, the Epstein saga morphed into mythology more than something that was connected to reality. Now, am I defending Epstein? No, there is plenty of evidence he was a dirtbag, that he procured young or underage or teenage girls for himself because of some weird fetish that he had, and most likely was guilty of a variety of criminal offenses stemming from that. However, the mythology stems from this assumption that's been so stridently believed for so long, especially on places like X and other online circles, that the Epstein saga must encompass a huge range of powerful people over whom Epstein had blackmailed and creating evidence of them engaging in illicit sexual behavior. Children or underage people. And there's just not a whole lot of evidence
is though, because
Well, let him finish. That mythology really in large part stems from the original arcade accuser, Virginia Giuffre, who over 10 years ago rattled off a huge list of prominent individuals to whom she claimed she had been trafficked. One of them was Alan Dershowitz. Now, leave aside one's feelings about Alan Dershowitz on any other issue. The fact is that between 2014 and 2022, Virginia Giuffre accused Alan Dershowitz of depraved criminal conduct, criminal sexual conduct, only to eventually admit in 2022 that she had falsely accused Dershowitz. This is the main accuser whose claims basically form the foundation for this entire ever-evolving mythology. Did you hear a lot of press coverage, really, to the fact that in 2022 the chief Epstein accuser had to admit that she was serially fabricating a false claim of sexual criminal conduct against prominent individuals? If you look for it, maybe you can see it. I commented on it, but it really did not seem to penetrate the consciousness much of people who are so invested in this story.
Was she involved with a lawsuit with Dershowitz over that?
But yeah, there were lawsuits and the counter lawsuits and defamation suits, and it eventually got settled. I mean, it's a very convoluted story, actually. Giuffre was represented by David Boyce, who's a hot niche, usually prominent, high-powered attorney. He was a long-running, like decades-old feud with Dershowitz, but it culminated in, the whole tackle of litigation culminated in 2022 in a settlement in which Dershowitz didn't even seek any monetary damages. All he sought was an acknowledgement by Giuffre that the accusation against him was groundless, and he received it. And so, Giuffre testified. Give me only 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, finish.
As such, Giuffre, if you notice, involved in the Ghislaine Maxwell criminal trial in 2021. She was not even called to testify by the prosecution because it's well understood that she had serious credibility problems.
Her statements were presented, her previous statements were presented as evidence, though.
She wasn't called to testify, and she was not one of the 4 victims against whom it was alleged in a sexual offense was committed. And Giuffre, unlike the 4 reported victims who were called to testify by the prosecution, Giuffre alleged widespread trafficking while those 4 did not. So the ones that the prosecutor actually had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt were credible enough to convict Maxwell did not even allege they were trafficked to a third-party individual. So somebody beyond Epstein. And that's the core of this whole drama that we're in now, right? People think that there's this mass cover-up, the deep state or whatever, of this extensive list of powerful individuals who have been caught engaging in this illicit conduct and now are going to have their crimes covered up in perpetuity. And I'll agree with any people who want to complain about members of the Trump administration, the right-wing media, Dan Bongino, Dan Bondi, etc., teasing their audiences with this idea that some major revelation was going to be on the offering now that Castellano and Dan Bongino got in there to clear out the deep state and finally bring justice to all the children who were victimized or whatever. That's not really, from my perspective, them participating in a deep state cover-up, instead just engaging in standard political charlatanism, because that's what Dan Bongino was, as like a Rumble talk radio host who's just eating red meat to his audience, but then once he actually has to filter his podcast ramblings into the higher evidentiary standards of the criminal justice system, then of course he abandons all this scintillating balance. A lot of this really is overblown, and if you don't even, just to conclude that last sentence, if you don't even allow for the possibility that the depiction of this whole story has been exaggerated by political charlatans to get everybody excited and think that they were going to be combating the deep state by electing Trump again and getting tenacious deep state opponents like Cash Patel and
I just want to correct what you said. In 2019, Dershowitz, in 2019, Dershowitz did seek monetary damages against Giuffre for defamation. So one thing that you said was incorrect, which was that she settled on the premise he wasn't seeking monetary damages in the lawsuit, and that she withdrew her statements without the threat of monetary loss. However, this is publicly available knowledge. In 2019, Dershowitz did file a defamation lawsuit seeking monetary damages against Giuffre. So that is some important context.
Just to clarify, to say that the final settlement did not entail.
But there was a threat of massive. But there was a threat of massive monetary loss.
At the same time, if you have been accused for nearly a decade of engaging in illicit sexual predation against minors, and the accusation was false, would you not be within your rights to potentially?
I'm not saying that he wasn't. I'm not saying that he wasn't. But
okay, I'll take that I'll take that clarification. It should have been more precise.
Yeah, because it adds to the weight of that she didn't just abandon her position willy-nilly without the threat of some kind of greater loss, as it was being suggested. So I just wanted to clarify. Good logic actually went to Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, so you can comment more to this than I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a New York attorney, and I attended that trial every day. So I want to have a little exchange with you back and forth about some positions you took. And I think that it's important for the purposes of intellectual integrity to vet out all possibilities so we can appreciate when we've been triggered to mass think a certain way and knee-jerk react that way, and then and then either eliminate that as a possibility or verify, like you seem to have, that is a likely scenario. So I appreciate just a few minutes to vet that thought out that you were just saying, that this is a fomented mass hysteria about a story which is red meat for MAGA, but that has less legs to it than we've been led to believe. And the reason
to clarify, I'll let you go, but I'm not saying that it's entirely mass hysteria. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein confessed to procuring young girls or teenage girls to gratify his sexual desires. So,
right,
not claiming that part is right. It's the broader mythology that's been constructed around it.
The mythology that involves third parties, which is really the key element here.
Correct.
Whether or not that this entire scheme was designed to feed his individual tastes, or it had a much broader agenda of trying to feed the appetites of other people who might have similar perverted sexual tastes that he has, and then blackmail them, extort them, or ingratiate them and himself with them one way or another. And the point that here are a few questions I have for you based on that take. So first, you start with an assumption that because Virginia Giuffre did not testify in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and you're correct. I actually brought that up early on in this space. She did not testify. And I think that there's a lot of reasons that she may not have testified, which have nothing to do with supporting the conclusion that you seem to draw.
You have never found incredible in any other court case when I had that context. Go ahead.
Right, and so the point that I'm getting at is Maureen Comey, who was the head prosecutor for that case, specifically charged Ghislaine Maxwell for feeding Jeffrey Epstein's individual appetite. And once you frame the charges in that way, and you can make a case, and you would make the case, I would assume, that the reason she framed that is because that's what we have evidence of. We don't have evidence of the other stuff that he's trying to feed the appetite of multiple people, but that he was simply that she was working to feed his individual tastes. And in that sense, once you frame the charges that way, there's no reason to bring Virginia Giuffre in there. I think you seem to be drawing a conclusion that Virginia Giuffre's withholding her from testifying is implied that there's some sort of shortcoming in her credibility. And my point back to that is no. Once you frame the charges a particular way, now you make Virginia Giuffre extraneous. And if anything, you can make an argument. The defense certainly would have made the case, because they were very skilled defense attorneys. They would have certainly made the case that that her testimony is going to be something that is a distraction from the ultimate charges and is designed to paint him in a negative light with things that are unrelated to the underlying charges. So,
can I respond to the Virginia Giuffre point, and then you can make your other points?
Yeah.
Okay, so I bring her up not solely in relation to the Maxwell trial of 2021. I brought her up primarily to posit what I would contend is her central role in fostering and creating this wider mythology, as I would call it, around Epstein.
See, the way that you phrase it is mythology, though.
In that she's the one who, over 10 years ago now, filed a lawsuit in which she accused a huge array of prominent individuals of sex trafficking, including Dershowitz, the claim she later specifically recanted. She did not even bring an individual lawsuit against other individuals that she had initially named, like former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell or Bill Richardson or other people whose names escape me now, who were associated with various powerful institutions. She brought litigation against Dershowitz, which she ended up having to recant pursuant to a settlement. She did bring litigation against Prince Andrew, who was in the middle of a enormous PR crisis after his infamous BBC interview, when he was obviously not he didn't put on a very sympathetic or persuasive performance to most viewers. And then there's also her Ghislaine Maxwell litigation. I mean, you would think that her other accusations against a whole slew of powerful people to whom she claimed she had been trafficked had been amply established by the factual record up to this point, given the knee-jerk reflex so many people have to assume that if the quote-unquote Epstein files are not being released as promised, that must mean that there's this huge universe of powerful people whose sexual depravities have been covered up by the Trump administration. And I just think that's not well founded.
The way that you frame it, hold on. I want to push back on something you said. The way that you frame it as mythology completely undermines the possibility if there is any factual basis to it or not, right? You're not leaving the door open for potential evidence when you're framing it as something that's completely fabricated from beginning to end, because it's based in a history that's long lost to us, right?
But
That's the way you're framing it.
Every last aspect of the Jeffrey Epstein story is literally fabricated, but things that have a core of truth to them can then take on mythological components over time as they get exaggerated and put into like a popular lore that's sort of divorced from
So do you think
actual record. That's what
do you think that Giuffre had the resources to take on all of these individuals that she named in this so-called network in lawsuits, by herself?
Well, having David Boies as her lawyer is a pretty good resource, isn't it?
And she was successful in many regards, correct?
She succeeded against Prince Andrew.
Yeah. Prince Andrew settled with her quite extensively.
Right.
So
like £12 million.
So that actually shows right there were third parties involved, which counters what you were alleging earlier.
Right. There's the
exactly.
one third party that did settle was Prince Andrew,
So why
And,
would you
if I
settle
were,
if you were
if
innocent?
I were Prince Andrew's lawyer, I probably would have advised him to settle too. He has the royal family's
frequenting that particular the Manhattan, the New York residence numerous times. And he admitted that himself on a different occasion. Like in the context of all of that, that would actually show that she was credible in her statement, especially when you couple it with all the settlements, right? Like there's far more evidence. Hold on. There was 2 settlements. There was also a settlement with. There was numerous settlements from the estate as well as banking institutions on the condition that the parties who settled with did not come forward and identify themselves. You don't know that she wasn't one of them, right? We do know publicly there was one settlement, but there's also other settlements that occurred where the parties involved weren't named under a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, can we agree on that?
I'm talking about third-party individuals whom she claimed she was trafficked to.
Correlating evidence that supported her claim. Can we agree on that?
Can I?
Well, I mean, look, can I ask you, like, this the fact that she, after 8 years, she finally conceded that she had falsely accused Dershowitz, one of the 2 people, the 2 third-party individuals she brought a lawsuit against, claiming she had been trafficked to him. Does that not cut against her credibility at all?
It could have been that she just didn't have the evidence. Making a statement in settlement, retracting because she essentially lost the case.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you need.
But that doesn't necessarily mean
accusations.
that it didn't happen, does it?
I can.
Well, she admitted that she had falsely accused him for 8 years, so that's as close to an admission that didn't happen that you can get within the system.
kept talking shit. Like,
I thought that was what you clubhouse people like.
so I talked to the group, and with Philip, he went and explained it. Then I let him come back up. Now, in the beginning, I said, Google what you're talking about at least before you come up here talking crazy. And when I dropped him, and then I brought him back up, and I brought up the cheeseburgers and eating a bar of candy every day.
So those are the 10 things we've discussed so far. Do you have any thoughts that you want to contribute or add to that?
No, I think as a broad outline, it's pretty good, Alan. I would just say one thing that you kind of rushed into was the institutions, and I think that the problem that has occurred within them is we've seen politicalization within the institutions, and I think whether you're goring my ox or I'm goring your ox, either way that it goes, that from the left or the right, if there's a feeling that that type of stuff has penetrated those institutions, that inherently leads to loss of trust. So I think that's something we really need to work on. Yeah, but as a broad outline, I think you got a pretty good handle on it, Alan.
That's great, Steve, and I am so thrilled you're here. You are one of the people that stimulated me to start doing this, because I think you and I agree on a hell of a lot more than we disagree on, and yet, if you were to listen in Gary's room, this isn't a criticism of Gary, it's just a different type of forum. One would think that we couldn't even be in the same room. One of the things I said earlier is it's much more important to me that we do the right things than that we do things right. And I think we get bogged down very often in discussions about whether we've done something right when we're not even discussing the right things. And
I would agree, Alan. I would agree.
Good.
And Alan, there's the salient point, I think, to this conversation. I think underlying a lot of the discussions we have at a foundational level, I think a lot of people can agree, is when we get into these more contentious issues, it creates an atmosphere that we don't even feel like we can have an agreement on foundational principles, like you said, autonomy. I don't think hardly anyone would disagree with that. Rights, that's basic things right there, because any government has the ability to go off the rail, and they have to be checked in some manner. So I think there's foundational issues that a lot of people agree on. We just get into these edge issues where they become so contentious and I think there's a more devious side of some people involved. They want to use it as a lever for power.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what can we do as average citizens? So here's one of my rules. If someone says all presidents lie, I say that's cynical. Whether you agree with Obamacare or not, there is a mass difference between if you like your doctor, you can keep him, and cutting $3 trillion out of Medicare, or whatever the number is, won't affect your Medicare or Medicaid at all. There's a vast difference between those things, right? I mean, even though we may have different oxes in this one, there's a level of truthfulness, right?
Yeah, and I think when you get into that you're talking degrees of dishonesty now, and I think
yes,
right, and I believe that people fall under this idea that I think it's the idea that if you veer from